I'm Cesar Delgado from Back Roads of Illinois podcast. Welcome to the show with us. I am joining with Joanna Colussi from the University of Illinois at College of Agricultural and Consumer Environment Sciences in Champaign. She is a professor of agricultural economist on Brazilian production. Good morning, Joanna. How are you today? And
Good,
welcome to the show with us for today.
good morning, Cesar. Thank you very much for having me. I'm doing well. At this moment, I am in Brazil, in the south of Brazil, near Argentina and Uruguay. It's very hot here. Yesterday, the temperature was close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's summer in Brazil, very different than Illinois, that I know that's very cold today.
Let's start to talk about the weather in Brazil and Argentina. How is the crop conditions in South America? Could you explain to the audience about this crop in Brazil?
Sure. Soybean planting in Brazil is behind schedule, which could mean lower global soybean and corn production in the coming months. High temperatures and drought in the center west and wet conditions in the south have led to delays in soybean planting. As a consequence, concerns have also arisen for the second crop corn because of the planting delays. The impact of El Nino on Brazilian agriculture is becoming increasingly evident. While it's still very early to estimate the potential reduction, there are several market factors that bear watching in the coming weeks that could potentially influence prices and markets in the United States. It's important just to highlight, just to give a contextualization, that after three consecutive growing seasons under La Nina's influence, this crop season has been very different with El Nino since March of this year. Generally speaking, the effects of El Nino are the opposite of the effects of La Nina for South America. During the growing season under El Nino, northern and central Brazil experiences reduced rainfall, while southern Brazil and Argentina see increased rainfall. I am in the south of Brazil. In this region, it's raining every day. Um, but on the other hand, dryness has impacted central Brazil at the peak of the planting season, especially in Mato Grosso. Mato Grosso is the number one in soybean and corn production in Brazil. And meanwhile, the southern part of Brazil has seen too much rain. So we have opposite situations in Brazil because it's a very big country like the United States. And just to complement, the NOAA model suggests that El Nino will reach its peak in either late December or early January. And based on the most recent forecast, there is a greater than 55% chance of at least a strong El Nino continue through January, March 2024, which could result in even larger negative impacts on Brazilian crop production.
What is your opinion on the corn yields for this year in Mato Grosso and Parna?
Uh, so the current delay in the crop season, in soybean crop season, combined with a smaller acreage of corn, has led to a 10% reduction in the corn production forecast compared to the previous season. Total corn production is projected to be 4.6 billion tons, according to the National Supply Company. Because of high production costs and relatively unattractive future prices, total Brazilian corn acreage is expected to decrease by 5% to 52 million acres. Faced with the increase in the risk of growing outside the ideal planting window, farmers could reduce corn acreage even more by January. But despite the concern about delays in planting either soybeans and corn, it's important to highlight that Brazil is a very large, and soybean and corn production in Brazil is spread across different microclimates. That means losses in some regions sometimes are offset by gains in others. So although there is stress in some regions, like in Mato Grosso, there are other regions in very good conditions, so far in the south of Brazil. So we need keep watching the situation, especially in these last 2 weeks of December and January, to have more better idea about the crop season, the harvest in Brazil.
Joanna, why is Brazil and Argentina are wanting to be top competitors in the corn and beans production than other countries in South America, like in Paraguay?
Yes, when you look the South America production in general, the South America soybean production, the forecast that will increase, especially because Argentina should double its production this year. You may remember that last year there was a severe drought in Argentina that reduced the yields there over 50% because of La Nina influence. The same happened in Uruguay. Paraguay last year, they had a good crop season because 2 years ago, they had a horrible crop season. But in general, if you look South America, even though we can have some problems in Mato Grosso, or even though we cannot have a record soybean crop in Brazil, in general, the soybean production in South America should increase from last year. For example, Argentina's soybean and corn planting reached 60% of the planted area as of the second week of December, the same pace compared last year. And despite some challenge with weather conditions in planting areas, the outlook for the crop season is really good in Argentina so far. So after 3 years of serious weather problems, Argentina sees the chance for a full crop, and also under a new president and economic regulations. You know that Argentina has had a new president since December 10. The libertarian economist Javier Milei takes one of the world's toughest economic challenges. So Argentina is a big food exporter and used to be one of the wealthiest nations in the developing world, but decades of mismanagement have destroyed the economy. So there is a huge hope that the new president could help Argentinians to reach a better condition regarding inflation. The annual inflation reached 160% in Argentina in November, and more than 40% of the population is in poverty conditions. So we'll see. The root of Argentina's problems is the government's chronic overspending. The size of the state has almost doubled over the past 2 decades. So Not by coincidence, on his first day in office, Javier Milei cut the number of Argentinians' government ministries in half from 19 to 8, starting what he has called a shock treatment. So we'll see. We'll have to stay tuned to see what happens in Argentina.
Yes, I remember that. Especially that this year, because of this crop in Argentina, looked great. Yes, ma'am. He is going to be helping with the farmers in Argentina.
Yes, that's correct. There is a huge expectation that the crop, even either soybeans and corn, will be much better this year compared to the last year.
Finally, what is your advice to the farmers about soybeans in South America?
So we know that
Finally,
South
what is
America
your
is
advice to the farmers about soybeans in South America?
So we know that South America is increasing in soybean production, in corn production. Um, Brazilian soybean exports for soybeans, for example, in 2023, 2024, are forecast at a record 102 million tons, a 5% increase from last season shipments of 97 million tons. The forecast is based on available supplies, favorable exchange rates, and continued robust global demand, especially from China. And now, when you look for corn, for example, the United States lost its position as the world's #1 corn exporters to Brazil in 2023, when China opened its market to Brazilian corn. Brazilian corn exports in 2023 are forecast at a record 52 million tons, a 21% increase from last season. However, Brazil is expected to reduce its shipments in 2023-2024 market year. Brazilian corn exports are forecast at 38 million tons. If that happens, Brazil could return the corn export crowd to the United States in 2024. So we'll see.
Is there anything would you like to go to tell our listeners about the markets in Brazil?
In Brazil, and I'd like to talk in regarding South America in general. Either Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay are expected to increase the soybean production compared to the last season. The last drought forced Argentina, for example, to import a record number of soybeans from neighbors Paraguay, Bolivia, and Brazil to keep its crushing factories open. We know that Argentina is the #1 in soybean meal and soybean oil exports. So even though there is these concerns around the El Nino, I would say that it's depend which eyes you look at. There are more conservative analysts that they don't believe anymore that Brazil could have a record production in soybean. In corn, for sure, Brazil will not have a new record, but maybe it's still early to estimate the potential reduction. Like I said in the beginning, there are several factors that we're watching in the coming weeks that could potentially influence the prices and markets in the United States when you talk about corn and soybean production.
My pleasure that you joined the show for today. Thanks. You're welcome to join the show anytime.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to talk with you, and you keep in touch.
This is Joanna Colussi from the University of Illinois at College of Agricultural and Consumer Environment Sciences in Champaign. From back roads of Illinois, I am Cesar Delgado. Have a good day.